Thanks for tuning in to VSB After the Bell. I'm your host, Gianna Chow. VSB, otherwise known as the Vancouver School Board, is located on the unceded traditional lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. The district is among the most diverse school systems in Canada, with an annual enrollment of just under 50,000 students, from kindergarten to grade 12 and adult education students. When you think about public education, you think about your neighborhood brick-and-mortar school, teachers, and classrooms. But the reality is the VSB offers a variety of programming for its many learners. With nearly 50,000 students in the district, it takes a team of dedicated educators and support staff to cater to the diverse learning needs of students. Today, we'll be discussing district programs, the types of programs offered within the VSB, and how they each benefit different students. Joining me today are directors of Instruction, Aaron Davis, Janis Myers, and Rosie Poetschke. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first off, perhaps can you introduce yourself to listeners and tell us how did you get here and what's the role of a director of instruction?
So my name is Aaron Davis, Director of Instruction Education Services. How did I get here? Well, I started in 1999 as a physics and phys ed teacher in the Surrey School District. Eventually became an administrator there as a secondary school vice principal, secondary vice principal in Vancouver, and a principal in Vancouver at a secondary school, the last site being Templeton. And for the last almost 6 years, Director of Instruction and Education Services. So the best description of what I do is that I directly supervise schools. So I supervise principals and vice principals. I'm their point of contact with the district on all matters that come to school operations, whether it's educational programming, leadership development, scheduling, parent, student concerns.
And many people may not know this, but on all school websites, the directors of instruction for that school is on the website as well. So your names are on various different school websites. So if parents have any concerns, they can also find your name there.
That is correct.
And Janis, how about you?
Thanks, Gianna. I completed my teaching degree in Australia and New Zealand. I've also taught in South Korea as well as in Ontario. I've been in Vancouver for over 20 years now, and I've worked as a French immersion teacher, teaching everything from kindergarten through to grade 7. I've been a district literacy mentor. I've been a vice principal and a principal at various sites, as well as a district principal with learning services. Currently the Director of Instruction in Educational Services, and I have the pleasure of supporting various portfolios, including the district choice programs.
Thanks, Jana. I am Rosie Poetschke, and I'm Director of Instruction for Learning Services, and I have the honor of supporting our 6,300 students with diverse learning profiles. It's a varied job supporting students with diverse learning needs, supporting students with accessibility needs, supporting students in the classroom and program settings. I began my teaching career and my education career actually completing my practicum at Laurier Elementary way back in 2000. I then went to London, England, where I taught for 5 years and then returned back to Vancouver and the Vancouver School Board. I've been a teacher at a number of schools in Vancouver. I was vice principal at Laurier Annex, principal at Oppenheimer Elementary, and then I became a district principal of special education. Following that, I was director of HR, and now I'm in the portfolio of director of instruction for learning services.
So definitely a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the education field. Let's dive right into it. We hear a lot about choice programs. Janis, can you tell us about what are district choice programs, what's offered, who can apply, how are they accepted?
For sure. The district offers a wide range of educational options for different types of learners. Our district choice programs include French immersion, Mandarin bilingual, Indigenous focus, Montessori, and fine arts at the elementary level. These programs are open to all students who are applying to kindergarten. There's a lottery process for programs that have more applicants than spaces. So in kindergarten, that means the parents apply to the district and can give 3 different choices. And then there's a randomized lottery that happens every year. The criteria for entrance to certain programs in grades 1 to 7 is a little bit different, and that's to ensure that students have enough language and experiences to be successful in various programs. So for instance, in French immersion, we will accept students in grade 1 up until September 30th, but not after that time because the students wouldn't have enough French language. People who are interested in applying to grade 1 to 7 can do so directly at each school rather than at a district level. And so they can complete the application form and submit it to each of the elementary schools that they're looking to apply to. At the secondary level, we also have a variety of district choice programs. Information is shared with students in grade 7, and applications are open to all students within the district. So all 18 of our secondary schools offer challenging and comprehensive programs. Many schools, in addition, have also developed their own school-based enrichment programs to meet a wide range of student interests and abilities. So in addition to the neighborhood school, our district choice programs offer a set of enrichment programs to meet the needs of our students.
So to summarize, there's a couple of district choice programs that parents can choose to put their children in, and choice programs are not bounded by a catchment. You can apply anywhere in the school district. And we do recognize that our district choice programs are popular, and some of them have a lottery system because we have more applicants than there are spaces. And there's no qualifications, especially when it comes to kindergarten. It's just randomized by computer. It's not based on skill set. But from grade 1 to 7, it looks a little bit different, and you have to apply at the school level. And then for secondary choice programs, if you're looking at, for instance, a mini school, there are various different types of mini school throughout the district. I think there's about 20, and more information is given to students at grade 7. So if parents are preparing their children to get into mini school, they'll have that information available when their child is about to graduate elementary school. So we have choice programs in the district, and families choose to enroll their children into. Rosie, what other programs does the district offer to support the diverse needs of students?
Thank you, Gianna. At the Vancouver School Board, we have a number of different programs that support our students with diverse learning profiles. In learning services and in the Vancouver School Board, we have approximately 73 different programs, both at elementary and secondary level, and they're offered as part of a continuum of services to our students within the district. The majority of our students are in mainstream school settings, but we do recognize that at times there are unique learning needs or unique learning profiles of our students that require some specialized support. For example, at the elementary and at the secondary level, we have autism programs that are called CORE, so communication regulation programs that really help students with autism develop communication and communication needs and supports.
73. Wow, that's a huge number. So if a parent wants to find more information about what's available for their child who may have diverse needs but maybe not certified, how can they find that information?
Thanks, Jana. That's a fabulous question. The first point of contact is the classroom teacher for a parent's child. They can connect with the classroom teacher either by booking an appointment to see the classroom teacher or perhaps even during parent-teacher conferences, or they can also connect with the school-based principal. All referrals for our special education programs come through the school and come through school-based team and are received at Learning Services. Referrals open for schools from November to March. And then in April and May, we we begin placements for programs for placement for September.
So if you think that your child needs additional support, either through enrichment or either through support because they have diverse needs, it's best to first start off with the classroom teacher and then work with also the school principal. But there's also a psychologist at every school too that can help with this process as well.
Absolutely, yes. At every school site, there is an assigned district school psychologist that can support the school in helping to conduct assessments, in helping to understand children's learning profiles, and in helping to suggest programming placement offers.
Are there any concerns with getting into these programs? Are they oversubscribed?
Well, our hope and our goal for all of our students within the district is that they are in mainstream classrooms. Our goal is not to have our programs full because we do want to have all of our students included within a mainstream setting. And so as such, there aren't wait lists for our programs because for the vast majority of our students, they can be supported within the mainstream.
And why this push for mainstream? I mean, if I have a child with diverse needs, wouldn't they be more successful if they are in a group with their own peers with diverse needs? Wouldn't they be more sheltered in case there's bullying outside of the classroom or at school? What's the rationale behind that?
Thanks, Jana. What we know what's best for kids is that it's best for kids to be included with peers of their same age, from a social emotional learning perspective, from a mental health perspective, but also from an curriculum's perspective as well. So we take all of those three pieces into consideration when we are looking at placing a child in a program, because we know that their needs and their social emotional learning needs in particular are best met with their peers in mainstream settings.
Is it also right to think that, these kids with diverse needs, they need practice with kind of dealing with peers that are not exactly like themselves? Because in the real world setting, there's going to be different types of personalities, and going through school is setting them up for success for the real world. So, if they're kind of siloed and always contained within their own group, they're in this bubble, and when they get into the real world, they may not have the skill sets to act appropriately. Whereas if they're learning these skill sets early on in life, then they have enough tools in their toolbox to manage those types of situations that, they can deal with in the future.
Yeah, and that's it exactly, Jan. I mean, our hope and our goal is for our students not only to be successful in elementary and secondary schools, but in post-secondary and in their adulthood. And so that is always our main goal and focus in mind is our students, our children in post-secondary and adulthood. We have great school-based teams and great school teams of counselors, speech and language pathologists, school psychologists, resource teachers, classroom teachers, administrators, and student support workers that support students in a fulsome way within a classroom setting.
So I didn't know that there were all those types of services. And if I want to get access to a speech pathologist or a psychologist, how do I find them?
That's a great question, Jana. The main contact, again, would be the classroom teacher or the school-based administrator. They are the contact for all of our district staff that support schools.
Okay, so the number one rule is to always contact your classroom teacher. I also understand there are alternative and alternate programs. Can you help us understand what are the differences and really what are these programs?
Thank you, Jana. In the Vancouver School Board, we have a school, and I use that word because it's not an official school, but it is called VAS, so Vancouver Alternate Secondary School. And VAS is comprised of 21 programs that are alternate and alternative programs, and they are really grounded in a culture of care. Both alternate and alternative programs first address the basic needs of young people from a social emotional learning lens, from a food security lens, from a housing community service lens, and they differentiate instruction for students so that students can access the curriculum and proceed through their educational programming.
So if a parent thought that this would help their child, again, how do they apply to get into VAS or access the 21 different programs?
Well, Jana, there are actually two different, there's a differentiation between alternative and alternate programs. And maybe I'll speak to those a little bit because that will help to answer your question. Alternate programs within the VSB are actually interagency programs that are co-facilitated by the VSB and outside agencies such as MCFD, so the Ministry for Children and Family Development, Vancouver Coastal Health, ANYA, the Urban Native Youth Association, PLE, PCRS, Milieu. And those programs are accessed directly through a social worker or youth justice referral for our secondary students. School staff do not have direct access to refer students to these programs, and the referral for those programs, again, must come from a social worker or a youth justice worker. Having said that, our alternative programs are VSB programs that are attached to a secondary school or to the VAS school site, or to VAS itself. And those applications are conducted once again through the school-based administrator and through the school-based team.
I see. Okay. So although the names are very close, they have two different application processes. Alternative programs are with the VSB. Alternate programs are with third-party agencies.
That's correct.
When we think about programs, we often think of K-12 students, but the district also supports adult learners. Isn't that right?
Yes, Gianna, that is correct. So in Vancouver, we have two ways to support adult learners, and I'll define what an adult learner is in just a moment. The two methodologies we have is through an adult education program and through the Vancouver Learning Network. So an adult learner in British Columbia is defined as potentially a student who is 16 years or older, and they are looking to do a few things. They could be students that are looking to complete a course for high school graduation to work towards their dogwood or an adult dogwood diploma. They may be a student that's looking to upgrade marks or complete prerequisites for a post-secondary institution entrance requirement. It may be a student who is looking to improve literacy or numeracy skills for future employment. It could be that they're looking to advance skills for personal interest. And so our Adult Education Center or the Vancouver Learning Network are two potential ways to support them. So I want to talk a little bit about Adult Education Center first before we talk about VLN, because they both have different delivery models of programming.
And to clarify, before you go into that, you mentioned the Dogwood Diploma, and essentially this is the secondary school graduation diploma that students would get when they finish grade 12.
Correct. So the bulk of students in British Columbia, when they finish high school at the end of grade 12, they earn what is called the Dogwood. Students who are older, there's a slightly different criteria, and they achieve what is called an adult Dogwood diploma.
Okay. Please continue on explaining the two differences.
One of the pieces with our adult education program is that we want to provide flexible learning for our students, because we have students that are about 20% of our students in adult education are between 16 to 18 years old, and 80% of our students are 18 years or older, and they could be up to 50, 60 years old. It really depends. And so that means that they need a flexible learning model in order to support their learning needs while meshing it with their life needs, whether it's work or family responsibilities. So we have two methodologies in adult education to do that. We have what are called structured classes, which is where students attend a class in person for a period of time over the length of up to 12 weeks or even longer. And then we also have self-paced courses where the students are able to set the pace that they work at and have quite a bit of flexibility to work around their life outside of education. Our structured classes are offered in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evenings, and even on Saturdays. To give you an example of the volume of students, we have about 3,000 students a year that attend our South Hill Adult Education Center. We also offer summer learning opportunities for students in adult education as well. There are requirements to be an eligible student in adult education. They're fairly broad. You have to reside in British Columbia. You have to be 16 years of age or older, and you need to be either a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, and or a refugee claimant.
And so if you meet those requirements, are the classes free then?
If you are a non-graduated adult, meaning you have not achieved your Dogwood, then yes, those classes are free.
Oh, but really? Wow.
Yes.
I did not know that. So as long as you didn't graduate secondary, you could attend any VSB adult education or VLN class for free.
Correct.
And then you also mentioned a 12-week structured class. How does that how is that equivalent to a regular semester class? Because a semester is a couple of months, and this is just 12 weeks.
It's quite a bit shorter. So the Saturday classes are the ones that are offered in a semester format. So the students meet every Saturday for a few hours a day. And so those classes start in September, they end at the end of January. Another set are offered in February, and they finish at the end of June. Most of our students take quarter classes. So they meet multiple times a week, but they do it over a shorter period of time. So instead of 5 months, they're doing it in about 2.5 months.
So it's an accelerated pace.
Well, the amount of in-class time is the same. It's just the frequency is higher.
Okay, and you also mentioned flexible learning. So you don't have to be in town then. You could also be remote.
So with our Adult Education Center, the idea is that ideally you would be localized because the student could come and get support, because we have a learning center where students who are doing self-paced courses can come and actually work with an educator, work through material. There might be some assessment they need to do. But if you're looking for more flexibility than that, then yes, absolutely, you could. We have another program, which is our Vancouver Learning Network, which is an online delivery model. And that model allows any time, any pace, any place. And so students have quite a bit more flexibility about where they're located in order to work through the curriculum that they're trying to finish.
I like that. Anytime, any pace, any place. Speaking of VLN, you mentioned these are free courses for those who haven't graduated secondary school. But I also understand there are free courses for those who have graduated but want to improve their skills in certain areas.
There are some criteria. And so what I would encourage listeners to do is to actually go to the VLN website, which is govsb.ca/VLN, and check the criteria for the coursework that you're looking for to see if you qualify for free tuition.
And how do you apply to be to adult education or to VLN?
So both programs have very specific methodologies to do it. It's actually quite simple. It's laid out very, very well on both websites. And again, I encourage listeners to go to them so that they can see the criteria by which they're applying for those programs. And it's when you're ready to register, you register. The adult education does have registration windows for our structured classes. And so it's important to check the dates to make sure that if there's a particular course you're looking for, is it offered in that time period for the in-person instruction? But if you're looking for self-pace or the VLN course, which is, again, online, then that's registration is ongoing.
So to summarize, there's kind of two different options for those who are wanting to improve their skills or wanting to improve their marks. There's adult education, and there's options for a structured class, which is a fast-paced 12-week class that you meet more often, or there's also flexible learning opportunities. And then there's also Vancouver Learning Network, which is essentially an online school system that you apply through the VSB. If you haven't graduated, you get access to these courses for free. And if you have graduated but are a BC resident, there are many courses that are for free. You just have to go on to our website to get those details. Summer school. As we head into hopefully the sunny weather, I know that summer school registration is on top of mind for many parents. When is that happening for the district? And can you talk to us about the programs that are offered during summer school?
Absolutely. So summer learning programs run in July and August. We have two streams. We have an elementary stream for K to 7 students. And we also have a secondary stream for students that are in grades 8 to grade 11, currently in grades 8 and to grade 11. Elementary registration opens at noon on Wednesday, April 26th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is not very far away. And secondary summer learning registration opens at noon on Monday, May 1st.
So at the time of this recording, or when this recording is published, it would have been registration would have opened yesterday at noon. And in terms of programs, what's offered during summer learning, like STEM classes or outdoor learning classes? Are those options available?
Yes. So it sounds like you're referring elementary programs. There's a range of courses. We have a package of about 20. You mentioned STEM or STEAM learning, and so you'd find that type of availability. There is literacy, numeracy courses. It's quite a robust package. It is standardized for delivery at our 8 elementary sites. And my recommendation is to have a look at the program offerings. And the reason that we do that is we want to make sure we have teachers to meet the registration needs for our students and the opportunity spread across the city for parents to engage in programming. So we don't want to have one specific program that's only located at one site that would be hard for families to get to.
So summer school is not available at all schools in the school district, but just at 8 locations, and all 8 locations have the same programming offered at the elementary level.
Yes.
And then how about the secondary?
So it's secondary, the same thing. We have 18 secondary schools in Vancouver during the winter, but in the summertime, we only run 4 secondary school sites. And again, they're distributed across the city to help with access. There's a wide range of courses that are offered at the secondary level, different types of programming. The students that this is eligible for, I mentioned earlier, but are current grade 8 to grade 11 students. There may be the odd current grade 12 student who may need to take a summer learning course, but they need to connect with their current school principal to make those arrangements. I'll try to keep this as simple as possible, but at our secondary level, we have courses at grades 8 and 9 that are preview courses. That means students, it's an opportunity to get a bit of an insight into the class or coursework that they might be interested in for next year. Those courses are non-credit. But again, no charge, but non-credit. So they don't earn, let's say they were doing Math 8 preview. They don't get credit for Mathematics 8, but they have an opportunity to see what's within the course. We also have review courses at grades 8 and 9. These students, they get a progress report, but they don't get a mark for that course. We have remedial programs in grades 10 and 11. So this would be for students who may have struggled in a particular subject area. And these credits are for credit. And so it will help them meet a graduation requirement in order to then help proceed to the next level of coursework that they're looking at. And then the other option that we have is what we call our completion program. And our completion program courses are ones that are full credit, where the student is able to either do it for the first time, they might be looking to repeat it, to improve a mark, or maybe there's a course that they weren't able to take from September to June, and now it's an opportunity for them to say, oh, I need this course in order to meet a post-secondary requirement. And then we have one last opportunity as well, which are courses for English language learners in reading and writing to support their ongoing development.
And how do you apply to these courses? I will be honest, I did hear a lot last year, the system did crash when people were trying to apply. So prepare for that this year.
So we've done a few things behind the scenes. We've been stress testing our IT system. And so stress testing means we put on a very heavy load of users and to see the robustness of the registration system. And so it's been stress test well beyond what last year's demand and load was. The other thing that we've done is we have staggered elementary and secondary registration. So last year for summer learning, elementary and secondary online registration started on the same day at the same time. And this year it's been staggered. So the intent there is to reduce the load on the IT system.
Well, there are definitely many different types of programs in the district, whether they're choice programs that parents opt into, special education programs, or programs that help meet the needs of adult learners or students who need a non-traditional setting to learn. I think that what they all have in common is that all these programs prioritize student needs and prove that learning can happen in a variety of different ways. Thank you, Erin, Janis, and Rosie for being here. We've just touched the surface on all these programs. More information is available on our website, vsb.bc.ca. Again, thank you guys for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a reoccurring segment on the show called Matter of the Month, where we address the most talked about topics. This month, there's been a lot of speculation in the news about closing annexes, the cancellation of the Ideal Mini program, and public access to board meetings. We're here to clarify the facts and dispel any misinformation. Joining me today are some of our senior staff members, Pete Newage and Pedro da Silva, both of whom are associate superintendents. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Gianna.
Could you introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your role in the Vancouver School Board?
Well, my name is Pedro da Silva, and I am currently the Associate Superintendent. I oversee secondary schools and also the Learning and Information Technology Department. But I have a long history in education. I've been a teacher. I've been a school administrator. I've been a district administrator. And I've worked in both school-based and district jobs throughout my career. And I have a deep passion of supporting students, and particularly supporting student choice and agency.
Thanks, Pedro. My name is Pete Newage. Like Pedro, I do have a long history in public education. Unlike Pedro, though, I've come up through the elementary system, and Pedro's more on the secondary side. Have done work in various elementary schools, not only in Vancouver, or not in Vancouver, but prior to Vancouver in the Surrey School District as a teacher and administrator. Moved to Vancouver a few years ago as a director in the Human Resources Department, and currently have the good fortune of being in the role of Associate Superintendent for Education Services.
Thanks again for being here, guys. Okay, let's get right into it. So there's been talk in the news about just the district targeting small schools, especially annexes, and considering closing them in order to balance the 2023-2024 budget. Can you clarify the situation for us?
Yeah, I'll take that question, I think. So I can confirm that the board has not initiated any new school closure processes. We actually do have a very clear and transparent process where any potential school closure processes would have to follow. I believe it's board policy. I think it might be board policy 14, actually, and that mandates an engagement process with the public that would have to take place in order for any of that to happen. What has taken place is that the board has passed a motion at the October board meeting directing staff to explore some strategies to address what we're currently experiencing, which is our structural deficit. And so as part of the work, staff have looked at all areas of the budget that contribute to the ongoing structural deficit and have identified some areas whereby there might be some measures to reduce the structural deficit. So some examples of that would be things like centralizing non-school-based staff in buildings to maximize the use of available space, combining some secondary classes if those secondary classrooms have low enrollment, increasing lease and rental rates and finding opportunities to do that, moving, potentially consolidating or discontinuing some programs that maybe are under-enrolled or undersubscribed, and closing sites that do not have students enrolled as a cost-saving measure might be something to consider as well. And ultimately, one of the other pieces that we did talk about was the idea of relocating students attending annex buildings to main school sites where possible. And again, that's just an opportunity to provide opportunities for those students, but also to decrease the amount of need in terms of buildings that we need to operate with the students that we have in our district. So I do want to emphasize, though, that those are only possible ideas to address the structural deficit in the long term, and those were brought to the board to consider. The closure of any annex is not part of this budget cycle, though. So for the 2023-2024 school year, the idea of closing an annex has not been brought forward onto the table. And I do believe that those ideas were shared publicly, I think, through the budget survey. And I think that went out to all VSB families. And it is a little bit unfortunate, though, that parts of the information or pieces of information can get shared from time to time to the public without context, and that can lead to some, unnecessary concern with the public when they hear bits of information or pieces of information that sort of are misleading or can be sort of taken without context. The board chair last week also shared an update about this to all annexes. There was some misinformation circulating or partial information circulating in the community, and the board chair reached out to those communities to share some information and sort of clarify the processes and where we are with them.
So you talked about not closing more annexes. So where does Queen Elizabeth Annex land here? Because the board did close that.
Yep. And so that's a little bit separate from the conversation in the previous question in my mind. So the board decided to close Queen Elizabeth Annex in June of 2020. And
2022, I
2022,
believe.
sorry, my mistake. And so just to that point, currently they've been undergoing a separate process to look at how they're going to deal with the land. And that's sort of been front and center here in the last little while. That process, though, has nothing to do with the closure or potential closure or considered closure of any additional annexes. That's a separate process altogether.
Right. And I guess we can also see that if a school were to be closed, there is a long process that we have to follow. The QEA Queen Elizabeth Annex was closed last year, and then there's a land disposition process that we have to follow. So it's not something that can be decided at just one board meeting. There's several public engagements that need to occur. So the public will know about it if it is on the table for the board to consider. But at this time, the board is not considering any additional annexes to close.
Yeah, and all of that would just be laid out in board policy. So that long process is sort of outlined there.
Thanks for clarifying that, Pete. How about the cancellation of the Ideal Mini program? We've heard a lot about that in the news, at delegations, as well as on social media. Can you give us some more information?
Sure, I'll handle this question. First of all, the program is not canceled. We are relocating the program into Churchill Secondary. Maybe a little bit of background information in terms of what led to the decision, which is always very difficult because when you have a finite set of resources, district staff sometimes have to make really difficult decisions. And when there are decisions that are put in front of you to prioritize one group of students over the others, there's always going to be a lot of hurt. And we acknowledge that this will have some impact on the students. But the senior team felt that the decision to prioritize the in-catchment schools for elementary schools and have families who live in that area to be able to walk to the neighborhood school was important to us. We also value the program at Ideal, and we want to really support those students as we transition to Churchill, which is a great school, which will in essence, allow us to also look at some space that can try to replicate similar type of feel to the building that is on a separate site.
I think at a previous board meeting, trustee said it best, which was, there's no solution, only trade-offs. And in this situation, the district is prioritizing in-catchment students. So these kindergartners or these elementary students can walk to their catchment school. And at Ideal Mini, which is a district choice program, they can go to the school of record, which for them is Churchill. And how far is the Ideal Mini students currently located, and how far will Churchill be for them?
So currently the Ideal Mini program is on the Laurier Elementary site, which is kitty corner to Churchill. So it's probably about 400 meters to Churchill Secondary, which is about a 3 or 4 minute walk to the school. I mean, it's important to note that, currently in that program, many of the students that do go into Ideal over the last few years have migrated into Churchill to grade 10, 11, and 12 level. So many of these students are choosing to go into the school. And so one can say that, by moving them into the Churchill site, we're also supporting that transition for the students who are in grade 8 and 9 and 10.
But what about the concerns that we heard from the community, especially from Ideal alumni, actually? They've come out and they've said that having them in a separate building creates a safe space for them because they need that small environment, and you can't attain that in a large secondary school.
Yeah. So I guess for many of the alumni, because we are receiving a lot of correspondence from the alumni, and they're very passionate about the program. I do think the program has changed a little bit over the last few years. Even on the website, it clearly indicates that it is an academically enriched program. And because of that, there will be some students that will profile similar to what the experience that the alumni have had. But what we're finding is that more of the students that are going into that program are going into it for academic reasons. And for those students that do need those resources, we will absolutely have support, counseling support. We'll connect with the families. We do have district alternative programs to support students who profile and have that type of anxiety, or if they're worried about small spaces. But I do feel that, like almost every other mini program in this city, which are in high schools, that once students get familiar with that space, that they'll flourish. I was a principal of a school that went through very similar circumstances where they moved from an exterior building and they went into the interior. And I can tell you that those students are deeply impactful in that school and have a strong presence. They have a connection to their own program and they have a connection to the school. But they hang out together, they learn together, they have a bond together, and they were flourishing in the high school that I was a principal at.
So you're not canceling the program, you're moving the program. What about staff? Will they still have the same teachers? And what about the cohesiveness that we've heard they want to really have consistent in the new location? Will the district be ensuring those features, those factors will be considered in the new location?
So, of course, answering this question will really be dependent on the staff themselves, because as individuals, they always have options. But we are anticipating that, that the staff will support the students and the program as is. So, if the teachers, for example, are with a grade 8 cohort and they're teaching many of the courses, that will remain the same. So I think for the students and the staff, we will do what we can to replicate as much as we can. It will be different. We have to acknowledge that there will be some differences. But again, we feel comfortable and confident that once the students and staff settle in, that they will have their sense of identity and that they will flourish in that environment.
I've also heard from parents that there's concerns for safety. In a small building, they're able to even leave their lockers unlocked and go across the hallway and, mix and mingle with other grades. But in a school where Churchill, you have almost 2,000 students, they're worried that they won't feel as safe. How will the district ensure that safety component will remain?
I always find this question to be interesting because in my experience, the size of a school or the size of a program does not always equate to safety. The reality is when we bring young people together and society together, there are social dynamics that create complex relationships. And as a district staff, we see them from our 23,000 or 48,000 students overall. We have about 24,000 secondary students. That it doesn't really matter what school it is. Like we work and support schools from various settings, various complexities. And to equate the safety to the size of a school is not always a fair correlation. In saying that, we're going to absolutely work with the staff to communicate and work with the counselors, the school admin. There'll be regular check-in. We're going to find a space for the students where they are located in proximity to areas where they'll have a lot of adults support.
I also heard from the community about this lack of consultation. Why didn't the district consult with impacted school communities beforehand?
District choice programs are reviewed annually. And because they are district programs, we don't consult. It is an operational decision, and staff make decisions to support learners throughout our system. In this case, we had two options. That was to provide space for kindergarten and elementary school students, or keep students in the ideal program. And the decision was to prioritize the elementary students. And that decision is a staff decision, and we work through and work together with the community. That would be the parents of the programs that are impacted and the students that will be impacted from that decision.
So what you're telling me is because Ideal Mini is a district choice program where students from across the city can apply cross-boundary to attend the program, it's not treated the same way as a school that would be relocated because it's a district choice program, and at an operational level, the district looks at the needs of the either community or the educational needs of the program and decides on a regular basis if it should be relocated or not. And in this case, the district staff decided it should be relocated because it wanted to prioritize in-catchment students at Laurier Elementary.
Yes, that's correct. And I just want to remind the public that almost all of our choice programs reside inside high schools. So this would be bringing this program in alignment with all the other programs throughout the city.
Right, secondary choice programs.
Secondary choice programs, correct.
So how about the current and incoming Ideal students? What are the next steps for them? What should they expect from staff before the program move takes place?
So the students can look forward to a space where, we do have classrooms that are going to be adjacent to each other. There will be a common physical space for them and an area for them to meet. They'll still be able to do many of the things they do currently in the program, like their field trips or their spirit days. They'll be taking the same amount of courses, and they will be with the teachers that they are currently with. Of course, if teachers do decide to move on, that is their prerogative. But we're expecting that we will literally moving the support inside Churchill Secondary. We will also be working with many of the students, and I would say in particular, I'd like to point out those students that are struggling with the transition. We have ongoing support and counseling. I do really want to emphasize that with the students in the Ideal program. Please do reach out to your school administrator, your school counselor. We are there for you, and we will work with all the other Ideal students to make this transition as easy and as successful as possible for you in the fall.
So the spirit of Ideal will be at the new location as well. District staff will continue to ensure the same classes are offered, to try and make sure that the same staff will be there teaching if the staff choose to continue to teach in the program. And a lot of the traditions will be carried over in the new location. So the program will continue. Is that right?
Yeah, the program will continue. And, I would say, buildings do matter, but really cultures are generated by the people, by the students, by the teachers, and by the parents that make them. And I believe that the culture will remain strong. These are very strong and proactive students who will be super successful in Churchill Secondary.
I guess at the end of the day, change is hard. Doesn't matter. And if you're used to a certain environment and you're moving them, even if you're maintaining the program, but you're moving them, it's a change. And from your experience as an educator, you've seen this happen before. And yes, there is an initial kind of storming phase, but you go through the phases and eventually that you're confident it will be successful and students will thrive in the Ideal Mini program, just like the other 6 or 7 choice programs that Churchill also has in the school. Okay, so thanks for clarifying that, Pedro. Finally, there has been some confusion about public access to board meetings. Can you explain the situation?
Yeah, Gianna, maybe I'll take that question. And maybe to do that, what I'll do is I'll maybe start with sort of going back to how we dealt with the pandemic. And so the pandemic, as many people know, forced us to make changes to the way, not only in education, but in all sectors, made us change the way that we do things like in-person meetings. And so like many other places during the pandemic, we were holding virtual meetings to comply with public health guidelines. And so as we transition back to sort of life as normal, if there is such a thing, post-pandemic, we sort of did some reflecting. And what we learned from that time of being online is we learned that these virtual meetings were actually more accessible for our main audience, that being the busy parents across the city of Vancouver. And so board and committee meetings occur during, as we know, prime dinner time, prime family time for our families in their home communities, anywhere between, say, 5 and 9 p.m. And we understood from reflecting upon that time that, families and parents don't really have 2 to 3 hours to drive across the city, come to the board office and donate that time or put that time into attending a meeting in person. So we understanding that rather, and then sort of looking at sort of what structures we have available, we decided to sort of look at doing things a little bit differently. Parents can still attend public board meetings where there's a live question period, absolutely. But our standing committee meetings are intended to receive information from the board and staff together with representatives of formal stakeholder groups. These meetings have been live streamed and remain available to watch at any time on the district's YouTube channel. It's the trustee members of the committee who forward matters onto the board for consideration at those public meetings. In terms of parent voice and community engagement, each month we continue to host a public delegation meeting. Usually that's about a week prior to the board's public meeting. And these delegation meetings enable people to share their comments directly with the Board of Education. So information, if folks wanted to look that up, information around those public delegation meetings and the related procedures around them and how to become a delegate at those meetings can be found on the website. It's a good place to go for people who are feeling like they want to connect with the board and share their thoughts and concerns related to issues that might be arising.
So to be clear, all the board and committee meetings are available publicly for viewing. But if you want to attend in person, it's the public board meetings, which happen on a monthly basis. You can be a delegate to speak directly to the board, but you have to apply to do that. And there's kind of a process and you need to register and such. So because of that, and most of the times those are parents, we found that having them on virtually, so instead of a person staying there for the full 2-hour meeting, let's say, they could log on for the 5 minutes that they have to speak to the board and then log off. So it kind of saves them time and it's more accessible that way. And then in terms of the standing committee, those are intended for stakeholders and trustees and staff. So as public observers, you don't have an opportunity to participate in the meeting. Really, the difference of viewing it in person and viewing it online is it's more accessible online.
Yeah, I would certainly say that there's a lot of opportunities for the public to engage with the board, to share their perspectives with the board. And certainly we've heard feedback around sort of how to become more accessible. And we're listening to that feedback and doing what we can to meet the needs of, not only a select few, but the greater community in terms of how they can have access to the board and share their opinions.
Thanks for explaining that, Pete. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Thank you, Pete. Maybe just to the listeners, and I think that a lot of people who will be listening will probably be from some of the communities that are impacted by decisions that have happened at the board. We do understand and acknowledge these are deeply impactful for folks. I just want to share with you that we're very thoughtful about those feelings. We care about your children. They are our students, and we really want strong relationships with the parent groups in our city. When it gets really complicated and feelings are hurt, sometimes the discourse tends to elevate to a point where we're not really talking about the children. And I just would encourage folks that sometimes decisions get made and they're difficult decisions. But our primary objective through our education plan is that it's centered on supporting students. And we are here to try to build community with everyone, even when the decision is something that you don't like. And I just wanted to thank everyone and thank Gianna for hosting us here.
Thanks, Pedro. And I'll just jump in there as well. So just wanted to also highlight the idea that our school board is committed to providing the best education possible for our students. And there are times when difficult decisions have to get made. But we also understand that there are can be at times rumors and misinformation sort of floating around the community, whether it's on social media or meetings or that kind of thing. And just want to sort of remind folks that might be listening to, reach out if they have questions, whether it's at the school level, at the district level, reaching out to the board through delegations, those kinds of things are ways to sort of make sure that you have accurate information when looking at how you want to interpret a certain piece of information. And that way we can ultimately do what Pedro was just talking about, which is maintaining a focus on the students that are coming to schools each day here in the Vancouver School Board. And then we can be working together to support them to the best of our ability.
If it's at the school level, Pete, who should you start with? Is it your classroom teacher or is it the principal?
Yeah, great question. I would say that certainly if there's an issue related to a classroom piece of information, always start with the classroom teacher. If it's a larger piece of information that might impact the whole school, then I would suggest that a parent would connect with the administrator of the school. Certainly, if a parent is not sure who to connect with at the school, starting with the principal is a good idea, and the principal can work with that parent to sort of make sure their concern gets to the right place.
And we always remind listeners to not be afraid of approaching a principal. I know it's kind of it's kind of a foreign concept, especially you don't want to be in the principal's office from growing up as a kid. But the principal is there to help with parents navigate the school system. So don't be shy and contact your principal if you have any concerns or questions. Thanks, you guys, for joining us today and clarifying the facts. We hope this podcast has been informative and helpful to our listeners. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to VSB After the Bell. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps us improve and create more content that you'll like. Remember, we release episodes monthly on the last Thursday of the month. We'll catch up with you then. VSB After the Bell, produced by the VSB Communications Department. Special thanks to music teacher Mr. Bonnell and Nightingale Elementary students for the original theme song. Keep up to date with district news. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at VSB39 or Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Vancouver School Board. And don't forget to subscribe to VSB After the Bell on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.